Hi guys, we are back today in the sewing room and we are getting ready to make our September tea towel of the month. So I know I'm a little bit behind, but we're going to get this one made and you'll be able to use it for several weeks, and it can go into October too. It will have some pretty fall colors if you choose some fall fabrics. So what I want to do is I want to make a towel to coordinate with my jar dish mat. So I've got it right here, and remember, if you saw this video, I used Kim Deal fabrics to kind of give it more of the fall or going into fall look, more rich tones, jewel tones. And so I am going to be using the same fabric line so that it will coordinate. And I've got an idea of what I'm making. I haven't made it yet, but I've got all the pieces outlined. So I think we are ready to start. Now, if you've been doing these dish mats of the month, you know that we have the same supplies every month. We need our towel, we need our adhesive, like Heat and Bond or Wonder Under, something that will adhere the fabric to the towel. And I'm using Heat and Bond Light, and remember, it's the one in the purple package. The other one will stick to your needle and cause skip stitches, and it won't work very well. So if you get Heat and Bond, get it in the light. But there's all sorts of things that you can use, but this one works real well. And that's what I'm using today. And it comes in small packages in rolls, and also I believe you can probably get it cut off the bolt at some places. I know without Joann's, it may be available at Walmart, but I think it's prepackaged there, and I think it's prepackaged at Hobby Lobby too. So let's see. Now, because I was going with these more rich colors like this, I thought I really don't want to use a white dish towel. And so I had several options. I could have dyed my towel and made it more of a tea-stained towel. But then I thought, well, I have some cotton linen fabric. It's a mixture of cotton and linen. I think there's more linen than there is cotton in it. And I thought, well, I can just go ahead and make my own towel. And so that's what I did. I just cut about a 27 or 28 inch square. I went ahead and finished the edges with my serger. And so that way it's not unraveling. And I went ahead and I threw this in the wash just with my regular laundry. And I washed it. I didn't put it in the dryer because the fabric hasn't been dried yet. And I think this one I'll be a little more careful with. My other ones, I just throw them in the washer, throw them in the dryer. If I need to press them a little bit, I do. But I'll be a little more careful because I'm not real sure what rate it will shrink compared to the cotton. Now, I do know linen will get very wrinkly. So this is something that if I'm using it for display and also use when I wash it, I'm going to have to iron it. I will probably keep this more for display than use, just because I am making it with this fabric. But we'll see. After it gets old, we'll of course use it. So we'll just see how it goes. But I'm excited to give this a try, and I think these fabrics will look really nice with it. So we've got our towel. And again, if you're not sure where to get these tea towels, just the regular tea towels, go back and look at my other videos, and especially the first ones, and we talk all about it. So I'm just going to fold this like this, because once we start putting it together, we are going to be wanting to have it like this. So I'm just going to fold it that way and set it aside. Then I've been figuring out my fabrics, and I've got my ideas right here. And what I have is 3 jar bonnets, and then I have 3 jars. 1 is larger and 2 are smaller. These are the little bands that go on the jar bonnets, and I'm going to have labels, and I accidentally forgot to put another one of this size, so you'll just have to cut 2 of this one. And I'm going to be putting these jar labels on, and then I'm going to be putting a piece of fruit on these jar labels. So one of them is going to have a tomato, and I think that's going to be the big one. And then one's going to have a pear and one's going to have a pepper. So I think that will be cute. Now I went ahead and put these stems. This one I may just embroider on because that's just really small, but you can choose to do what you want. But I think embroidering it on would be really simple. This right here is the tomato stem. We're going to put it right there, and it's just going to be the stem for the tomato. So that's what I have here. Then I also, because when I was trying to come up with what my idea was for September, I was really wanting to coordinate it with my jar dish mat. But right now, this time of year, in the evenings, we have swarms of dragonflies, and it's just so fun to watch them swooping up and down in the sky, going after little gnats or whatever they're going after. And they will just be by the hundreds in our yard. And then they'll go away and we won't see them until the next night. And it doesn't last very long. It's just a week or so that they're here. But it's really fun to watch, and this is the time of year they're going through. So we had them in our yard this week, and we'll probably have a few more days of them, and then they'll go ahead and move on. So I thought it would be cute to have a little dragonfly flying around at the top, because that's the time of year right now that the dragonflies are out in our area. Oh, and we also have our butterflies are kind of coming through too. You know, we just don't see a whole lot of butterflies like we would like to see here, and we have lots of flowers. We don't use chemicals or anything, but for some reason we don't see many during the summer. Now during the late summer right now, I start seeing the big ones, and we've seen some monarchs, and we've also seen some of the swallowtails, the blue ones and the yellow ones, and some other really pretty ones. I do have swallowtail caterpillars on my parsley now, and I'm hoping that those will survive, and we'll have more of those soon. So I don't know if there's just a reason for not having as many butterflies, if it's because we have crops here and maybe they're spraying. I don't know. It's sad that we don't have as many as I used to see, but again, this is the time of year we normally start seeing them. So we're going to add a dragonfly. I thought about adding a butterfly too, but I don't think I will, but who knows? We'll see. Now these right here you're going to find in the description box below this video, and I'll have it a little cover page, and I'll put a picture of my towel on the front of it so that you can have a picture to reference. But right now this is what I have, and after I get this all done I will put it together, and that will go as a download in the description box below. So let's get started. Now the first thing I'm going to do, and I do this differently each time, I know, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and do it the way we started off doing before. I'm just going to get a sheet of paper, or a sheet of our heat and bond, the size of a piece of paper. And I am just going to cut that approximately the size, and I can trim it down here in a minute. And then what I'm going to do is take, and you can take stick Elmer's glue, that's the school washable glue, but I find that it can start falling off. So I'm just going to use the liquid Elmer's school glue, and I'm going to put it quite light and just kind of put it on each. Let me get my nozzle cleaned out. You know, this is back to school, and I know as a teacher this was always the thing that the kids had trouble with. Their glue would always get clogged, and these silly nozzles were the problem. So let me get a needle. So of course we'd all have to get our glue, and somebody would share with their partner their glue while I was cleaning out the other ones. So you'd think we'd have something a little nicer these days. Okay, so now we should be able to go. So what I'm going to do is I am going to put just a little tiny bit, and I can see my pictures of things in, if I just kind of hold it up a little bit, and I just want a little dot for each piece. Oops, my star. And I can kind of, just so it doesn't warp it too much, then lay that right on the paper side of my adhesive or my heat and bond. So this is the rough side, and then the top side has paper. And so I am just going to press that carefully with my hands. You don't want to hit it with the iron because you will be ironing your heat and bond to your ironing board. But we'll just hold it there for just a second to let it get set. Okay. And so while that is getting set, I am going to get my fabrics, and I'm going to do these for my jars, these for my fruits that I have on the label. I think this will be my label, and these are going to be the jar bonnets. And then I have some scraps right up here that I'm going to use for the little bands. So I think these are ready. And so all I'm going to do now is I am just going to cut apart, not cut these out, but just cut apart each of these pieces. You don't want to have to do the fine cutting twice. So I'm just cutting them apart. Now, if there's anything that has the same fabric, you can leave those together. Those do, but I think I want those to be closer together because I'm just using a charm square. Now, some people ask why I just don't trace it on my paper. I don't want to trace all of these pieces. I am being lazy. I just want to cut them out. So if you like to trace yours, go right ahead. Whatever way you like to do is fine. I'm going to keep those little stems together with that because I'm not sure exactly how I'm doing that. Okay, so we've got everything separated. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and clean this up. Okay, I've got this all straightened up. Now let's put our pieces together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and I'm going to use the wrong side of the fabric. This is the side that's rough. It's the sticky side, and it's going to be adhered to the wrong side. I'm just going to put a pin in it, 1 or 2, whichever you like to do, like that. And then I'm going to go and pin all of my pieces. Now let's see, this is the, yes, this is the one that goes to this one. So I think I am going to put maybe a brown one on the red jar. And I like to kind of preserve my fabric. And then this one's going to be a small jar. Just make sure you get it on the back of the fabric. Otherwise, you'll be getting another piece of fabric and another piece of adhesive. And then since this was the pear, I think I will use this one for the topper. And then for the peppers, whoops, look what I almost did. Focus. All right, now that I've got all my pieces set, what I am going to do is move this right here. I am going to iron these down. So just follow the directions on your adhesive. And that one's down, and you know that it's down if when you pick up the paper on the adhesive that your cloth has some kind of a residue. With the Heat and Bond, it's going to be kind of a shiny residue. So that one's on, and I'm just going to go through and do all of these just like this and get them attached. Okay, to get another one of these squares right here, I'm just going to take another piece of our Heat and Bond, and again the sticky side or the adhesive side is down, and here we will trace this piece right here. Don't use a heat erasable marker because you're going to be ironing on this before you cut it out, and you don't want it to be erased. You'll just have to put it right back on. And you could put this on and then add your square piece later. And anything that looks a little crooked there, when I use my scissors, it will be straight. So I'm just going to take this piece now and just put it right here. And it will get ironed on, and then we'll cut it. So I went ahead and also did the dragonfly, and you know, I may be making another dragonfly. Once I put this together, we'll see if there's another dragonfly that needs to be made. But we've got everything ironed, so everything's down. Now I just need to go sit down and I need to cut all of these teeny tiny pieces out. Now remember to be careful not to lose any. It's easy to lose a little piece, so just sometimes I have a little tiny bowl or something that I keep them in, or a little basket that doesn't have holes, and I just drop them in there. So I will bring you back when I've got all of these cut out. I have all of my pieces cut out. Now what I need to do is I need to take that paper backing off. So this is the piece of paper that was the template, but then there's another piece of paper right here that came with the Heat and Bond, and all I need to do is just take a needle and score it, and I can just pull that off really easily, just like that. And so that will be trash. There is one of my jars. Now I went ahead and I did my dragonfly, and I did put a number 1 on the 2 top wings and a number 2 on the 2 bottom wings. You don't have to do that, but I thought, well, that will help me if I am not sure which way looks best. It will give me a start at least. So I'm going to get all of this paper taken off, and I'll bring you right back. Everything has the paper off of it now, and we are ready to start piecing these together, and this is the fun part. So a viewer shared with me before the last video that we made of our dish towel that you can use a silicone mat to place your pieces and iron them together and then place them on your towel, and that's what we're going to do. Now this is just a silicone mat for cooking on, and you can find them really cheap on Amazon. I'll try to link some in the description box. There are also some that are actually made for applique fusing, and this is just a small one. They are a lot pricier than these, but really I haven't noticed anything different about them. They both work just fine. These come in different sizes as well, but I just happen to have this one here, and I know I've ordered some off of Amazon for other things, and they all work just fine. So let's piece some of these together and see what kind of layout we're going to come up with. So I'm just going to set this right here so you can see. And let's put a jar together first. Let's do the big one. And then now the jar bonnets are just a little bit different for the big one and the small one. And so this one is the larger one. So this one's gonna go here. I just need to trim this jar bonnet up just a little bit. I noticed I still had the little pinking edges on it, and I don't want that. Okay, so now you've got to decide how far up you want that jar bonnet. And just however you think it looks right, I like to kind of center it. And let's see, we are going to have, let me just lay these out so we can decide what colors we're going to use. That might look cute for that one. And I'm going to trim these down a little bit. When I made them, I really didn't know what size to make them. So they are made big and we can trim them down. I'm thinking, oh, this one's got to go here. Okay. I think that looks good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make these thinner. And I know that they're small already. I did not want to make the lid part of the jar bonnet too high though. And what we're going to do is we're going to put it on there just like so. Let me trim that one down just a little bit more. And you might want to cut them just a little bit larger so that way, and we can trim our jar bonnet too. And I think I cut this one a little large. Just these little finicky things. Okay. I still don't like that. Okay. And I'm going to cut this one down a little bit more. So sometimes we just find things that need to be adjusted as we're putting it together, and we can do that. We can just make it work. And I just took a little bit off this corner, and I think that looks much better. Okay, so there's that one. And I'm just making sure I have it level as far as the lid and the bottom of the jar are parallel. And that looks pretty good. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and hit that one with some heat. Now when it goes on, it's going to adhere the pieces together, but it will come off of this silicone mat. So we're just going to give it some nice heat to go through those layers and to heat up everything. And just follow the directions on your fusible. And we'll let that one cool. Then we have these two jars here. And let's see, I think I might... That one's too close to the same color. Let's do it these two. Okay, so I'm going to do this one over here. Well, I'm going to do this one right here first. So let's cut this one down. And you can even kind of round off those corners just a little bit. And I have a feeling, let me see. Yeah, I wanted to make this one drop down just a little bit. So what I'm doing is just going down just a little bit and just taking some of that off. And you can make it a straight down piece, or you can make it have a little bit of a arch to it. And there's that one. And let me make sure. And I can even round this edge just a little bit more so it looks like it's going up and around. I think that looks good. Give that some heat. And just let it get, whoops, wobbling my table. Just let it get nice and hot. Now this one here should be cool enough that we can remove it. Let's see. Yep, just comes right off and the adhesive is still back there, so that's good. Let's just set that one aside and let's put this one together. I'm gonna go ahead and trim this one. And you can also take the two of them and put them together. When I was making these templates, that's how kind of I did put them together. Cut a little bit off there. And I can use these lines underneath here if I need to make it kind of more straight. That's too high, so I'm going to drop it down a little bit. Just watch those little pieces so you don't get those on your iron. And we'll let that one cool, and this one should be cool. Yep, that one's good. Okay, so now while this one's cooling, let's see what we're going to do for our labels. And if you want to trim these labels to a different size, you can, or if you want to round the corners, you can. Just squaring this one up a little bit. I think this is the one that I drew. And so you can make them go tall like that or wide. And I just like to give the same amount of space on each side. Now, this would be the pear. This is the pepper. And this is the tomato. You can kind of play around with it to get it to look the way you want. pear is just a little bit big. I'm going to shorten it down here and up here just a little bit. And I'm just following that line just to get my curve right. And you'll want some nice sharp scissors when you're cutting these anyway. Barely took any off. And I can let it set a little bit on its side, and I think I will do that. Now I do have the stem for the pepper. And it's always nice to have some little tweezers too, especially when you have these little pieces. That looks good. I think I'll have the stem coming right there, and that should be okay. I think I'll make it a little bit smaller. It's not quite going. It seems like it's a little big. So you'll just need to trim your pear down to the size you want it, or just leave it that size. Make your label bigger. And you could fold it in half if you want your sides to both be equal. I don't necessarily want that. And you can also, if you just don't feel comfortable trimming it down, you can take the pattern that I made and you can reduce it just to get that pear shape, or even cut that pear shape out and put it on your printer and scan it in a reduced size, and it will come out for you. Okay, that looks good to me. Am I missing anything? Anybody yelling at me right now? Okay, everything is set, squared up. Let's see, one thing I think I want to do is to make sure that those are about the same spot, and they are. And that one's fine. Okay, here we go. And since there's several layers, because you have your 3 layers of fabric right there, you do need to get it nice and hot so that that label underneath the fruit or the vegetable there will adhere. Okay, those are looking awfully cute. So we're going to let those cool, and let's go ahead and see if we can put together this dragonfly. So these were my top wings. This one goes here and here. And you're going to need to put those tips together because you're going to have a small body part right here that will be the piece that covers those tips. And I'm going to put this tail underneath that body part. And and the head. And I'm overlapping the head just a little bit on that body part so it goes together. Just goes right on top of it. Okay, so there's what it looks like. I think that looks good. Let's hit it with some heat. What do you think? Do you think we're going to need 2 of those or 3? Those will be cute on the back corner too of our towel. All right, we've got all of our pieces adhered together right there. Now we have to decide how we want to put them on our towel. And we can, if we're going to be overlapping, which we are, at least I am, we can put them together here. Now, if you are putting these in front of this, you'll need to scoot them down just a little bit because they would be farther this way. So if you're wanting to make the perspective seem right, that's how you would do that. Now you could have set up like this. You could have them all setting at the same level like that. That would be cute. Let's see if this guy is dry or cool. It's going to be very delicate. Yes. Okay. You could have these 2 behind. Just make sure they're going up and down straight. Like that. That's cute too. So we just have to come up with the way we'd like to have it. I think I'm going to go with that. What do you think? Okay, so I'm going to press it because these are going to all be put together right here. Now let that cool, and while it's cooling, I'm going to bring my towel over, and again I folded it, and you know, most of the tea towels are not perfectly square, they're rectangular, so if you do this then you can just kind of figure out how you want it to set. I like to set it so it is even with this and just forget about these over here and just make sure this point kind of center it right here. So let's see if this is cooled off. And just be careful because sometimes they can pull apart, especially if they're warm. If they're warm, it might not be stuck, so be sure you let them cool down. Okay, so here is my point up here. So I'm just thinking there's an imaginary line going straight down, and I am going to put those right there. I am going to be binding this because of this raw edge, and so I think That looks good. Scoot it down just a little bit more. We are going to have a cap up here. I think that looks good. I'm still wondering about my dragonfly. Would it be cute to have one going down and one going up? I think I'm going to put this one on just like this. And if I want to add another one, I certainly can. And I might want to make another one for the back corner back here. Okay, I think I like that. So now it's time to do the big press. This is where it's permanent. Just get it nice and hot. And you want to get the edges down really good because you don't want those lifting up while you're sewing. I am going to be doing a machine sewn blanket stitch, but you can do a hand sewn one. You can also do a machine sewn straight stitch. It just may fray eventually around the edges, but again, that's kind of the style right now. You can also do a zigzag stitch around the edges. That would be fine too. So I think this is ready to start sewing, and I am going to do that. When I sew this, I'm going to use a pretty small stitch, a pretty small blanket stitch, and I am going to match my thread to the color of the fabric that I'm sewing on. You don't have to. You could do it all in white or cream or whatever, but I think it'll pop a little bit better like that. And then when I come back, we'll put the topper on. All right, I have it all sewn, and I think it looks really nice. I did use the color of thread that matched the fabric that I was going around, and I can give you a closer look. And on the pair, I just did a really close zigzag, so it made like a satin stitch, and I made the stem. And then I did go ahead and put a square or the stem on with fabric and stitched around it. Now you could do a fatter satin stitch with your sewing machine, and that would look good too. But I figured while I already had this brown on, I would do that, and that worked out just perfect. So I think all of those look really good. One hint is to save yourself time when threading your machine is use one color for the back. And so the back thread is something that matches. You can barely see my thread. And then just change out your top thread, and that makes it go a lot quicker. So I think this is looking just so cute. So cute. I'm just so happy with it. So now what we need to do is we need to add the topper, and I've changed this topper up. So if you want to use one of the old ones, you can definitely go back to one of those videos and take one of the old ones. But I've kept that flower one, but I've put a band. So doesn't this look like the jar bonnet on top? So I thought this would be really cute. And so what I need to do is you can copy two of these and use one for the band and one for the template here. But you can also just cut this template out like this. And just put a snip there. When you are, and you don't have to cut it exactly right now, we're just going to cut around it. So when you are cutting out the piece of fabric for the center and for this, that's going to be one piece, okay? The piece that is this strip is just going to be this circle, this little thin strip. That's the part that's just going to be a thin piece. Everything else is one big piece. So basically it's like cutting out that original topper that we had and then adding this band. And I'm just cutting this. I don't need to even cut on the line, but because I can't talk and do something at the same time, I was cutting it right on the line. So you don't have to cut it right on the line for this. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a piece of fusible and I'm going to lay this on it. And everything, and I can go all the way to this edge here and this edge here. So basically I'm just gonna do this design right here and keep everything. And that way, and I just pin this. Just make sure it's laying flat. So when I go and cut this out, again, just to save my fusing, I'll cut close enough to my pattern. And it'll also be sure to stay just on my fabric and not get on my ironing board cover. Okay, so basically I just have this circle like this. This is going to go on my piece of fabric, and I think this is, let me see, let me measure it real quick. This is about a 9-inch diameter from the outside, from this outside flower to this outside flower. So you could put this on a 10-inch square, lay it down, you know, like a layer cake square, and then you can press it and then just cut like that. Don't cut the center out. We need the center. So you'll just have one big piece like our original topper. That would be that piece. And then with the piece that you were cutting out like this, you can throw this on your fusible paper. And this is the paper side is up. My fusible side is down. We can get a piece, and I'm going to cut the center out of this one because I don't need it to be fusible all the way in the center. So when I get ready to cut this out on my fabric, I don't want to have all of this in here. So again, I can use some of this fusible paper if I cut. This will be a fine piece to use for something else, just being thrifty. I really need a smaller scissors for this, but we'll take this one and be fine. Okay, so this is still good fusible paper. I'm keeping that. Here's all the rest of my fusible paper. I'm setting this aside. This is all just trash. And this right here has my fusible on it. And I can add another pin here. And so what I'm going to do is this should fit on, measure it. This should fit on a 7-inch piece. So I can get a 7-inch piece and a 9-inch piece, and I should be able to cover that. So this will be the whole inside and everything. This will just be the strap. Okay, we're going to walk through this together just in case you didn't understand my madness there. So I have a piece of fabric that is just about 7 inches square, and I believe this is about 9 inches. Yeah, and I've got selvage on there too. So what we're going to do is right side or wrong side up, right side down, and then this has the adhesive on the bottom. We are going to lay this here. Now, if you see some of your paper going off onto your board, be sure you trim that down. We don't want that on our ironing mat or our iron. Now you can get it off and stuff, but it takes some time and it does burn. So just get that so it's not going to be overhanging onto your ironing board. Okay, that looks good. Now I have glass needles here. This one's a plastic one, so let me go ahead and get one of these heat-proof ones. But we can hit the iron on those without any problem. And let's get a hot iron. And let's just put this down. And then I can turn it over like this. And that'll be a little bit better with those pins there. Get it nice and hot. That should do it. Then let's take our big piece here. And then this one, glue side down, wrong side up. And I do want to make sure I don't get the selvage there. So let me get that nice and close without getting it on my board here. Okay, that's gonna avoid that. And all of my pins are glass. Now remember, we're putting that center on as well, because this whole piece is going to go on the top of our towel. And once we get it down somewhat, we'll just turn it over. And you just want to follow the manufacturer's direction for your adhesive. And I think that'll be good. Okay, nice and hot. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scissors and I am going to cut all around the outside here. And I'm going to cut right through the center circle and the outside circle. So I'll just have this little circle like a little Cheerio. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, so I have them both cut out. We can take off our pins now and get rid of this back paper. And again, and I tell you what, before I do that, I'm going to give those another press now that I don't have my pins on. That'll just be just a secondary precaution. Okay, so let's just do it this way. Make sure they're adhered very well. There's that one. There we go. Now we've got them on good. So now we can take this paper off. And if it's still hot, you might want to let it cool just a little bit to make sure it adheres well to your fabric. And you should have all of that, I got a little thread in there, all of that adhesive on your fabric. Okay, so there's that piece. And let's see what we can do about this one. And you can, of course, do the edge, but a lot of times I find that I start fraying those edges, and when you're appliquing, they start looking kind of rough. So whichever you feel comfortable with, taking that paper off is fine. Now you can just eyeball this, and that's normally what I will do. But for those of you who have a hard time eyeballing it, or it just really bothers you that it's not perfect, you can take, and we can take this and fold it perfectly in half, like that. And you could either use the press marks, or I have a friction pin that will erase with heat. And just put a little line on that edge. And then you can do the same way. Open it back up. It was still a little warm. And match up those two folds or marks. Just like that. Put your mark. And your mark. Then take your flower piece, match it up. And I'm just going to draw a little line on this outside, if I can. There we go. Just put some little dots there, right on that fold. Then we're going to match those two up. And just make some marks toward the outside, like that. And so there I have my 4 marks. And if you match up your marks with those lines, and if your folds are still there, use your folds. Those work too. And just keep moving it. Sometimes you got to move it out or up, and it will match up eventually. It just has to go the right direction. So that one's there, this one's here, this one's here. Okay, so now according to that, it is centered. And now let's press that down. And take these pins out. Okay. Now we have this. I'll let it cool for a second before I lift it out. All right. So now what we need to do is take our towel, and I'm just going to give it a press up here so that these 4 folds are marked. And if I hadn't had used a heat erasable pen, I'd still have my marks there, but we've done that. So let's fold this so that we can get, just finger press, don't press with the iron. It's got the adhesive backing on it. Right there and right there. Okay, so let me open this up, and I'm gonna have to straighten this up, so I'll be right back. Okay, I've got a little more room here, got it cleaned up. So I've got this all opened, and now we're gonna take our fold line on this and match it with the fold line on our towel. So that's not hard to do at all. And if we get it matched, we know we're centered. And that looks good right there. And that's on. So this is going to be so cute. Can't wait to see it all finished. Isn't that looking good? All right, so I'm gonna go and sew my blanket stitch all around the outside, and then all around the inside of this circle and the outside of this circle. And there I have it all sewn on, and I think it looks real nice. So we have the topper on. Now we need this tie string or the tie fabric. And in order to make that, you will need a piece that is about 24 inches long and 2 inches wide. And what we're gonna do, let me just set this aside, is we are going to take this and we are going to fold it a little bit in, about 1/2 inch in on both sides. It doesn't have to be exact. Then we are going to take and fold this in half so that the raw edges are meeting. Just like this, and press it. And then once that has your press line in it, we're going to open it back up, and we are going to be pressing each of the raw edges to that fold like that. And so you can do one side at a time, or if you can do both going into the middle, whatever works for you. Sometimes it's easier just to do one edge at a time and then bring the other one over. And once that is all pressed, we are going to take this to the sewing machine, and we are going to sew right next to all the edges of this strip. So I'm thinking about 1/8 inch in. I like to do the open side first. That way I can make sure it's all nice and even, and then the folded side goes together really quick. But you'll want to go all the way around, even at the tips. And remember, those are folded under still, so that you don't have any raw edges seen. And there we have our top string all sewn together. So let's put that on our towel. So we're going to lay it out. So we have this line, this imaginary line right here. And what we're going to do is we are going to lay our hanger. Let's go ahead and find the middle. There we go. And I just used matching thread. I don't know if you can, so that it just blends right in. And you can use any color thread, if whatever you like, but if it's matching, you don't even see your stitches. So then what we're going to do is we are going to have this right here, and I still have my folds in there. I could still see that. So that's the center. And so I am just going to open this right there, and I am going to put, I've got my ironing board so it's soft underneath there, and I can't, there we go. And so now what I need to do is take this to my sewing machine, and I found that I like just to do a zigzag stitch across back and forth a couple of times right there in the center, and that will hold it nice and secure. You can make the zigzag really close, and so it's almost like a satin stitch, so it looks really nice too. All right, and we have our tie all sewn on, and I just used that satin stitch and it looked really good. And so far, here's what we have. And now I am going to put a binding on it. Now, if you have a towel that has nice looking hems, you don't have to do anything more. If you wanted to do rickrack a little bit above that hem, you could. If you have one that you would like to add binding to, like I'm going to do mine, you can do it with one solid piece of fabric, whichever kind of fabric that you want, but just one fabric. But I am going to be doing mine Scrappy, and so in order to find out how much binding you need to add all four sides together, and then I add about, I don't know, 12 inches to it just to make sure we have enough to overlap, and so you can get by with less, but with the method that I use, it just makes it a little easier. So what I am going to do is I've just picked out some fabrics that I thought kind of would be coordinating with the ones I've already used. Let's see, that was my strap there. And so I've got my reds, my greens, my pinks, my teals, and some orange, and then a little bit of brown and orange right there. Okay, so I have my jelly roll strips, which are 2.5 inches wide, and I just took half of the jelly roll strip, which is half the width of the fabric, and I trimmed off the selvages, and I'm just going to take my scissors, and I'm not even going to try hitting the middle, but I'm just going to cut them in half somewhere. And it's okay if they're not in the middle, because this is a Scrappy border. So as you can see, these are a little bit shorter. If you wanted them to be perfect and all of them the same size, you could certainly do that. And in order to put Scrappy binding together, what you're gonna do is, and I just like to kind of mix up my colors a little bit, is you're gonna take two pieces, right sides together, and we are gonna form the capital letter A. We're gonna match up this side here and this side here. I will put a pin right here and a pin right here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the sewing machine, and I am going to see where this little corner sticks out right here. It is right there. Let me get a marker here. I'll just mark it with this tailor's chalk there and there. So what I'm going to do, and let me get a ruler. I am just going to do a diagonal line from corner to corner, just like that. And so we have the capital A. Here is your A, and here is where it crosses. So if you're having a hard time remembering which angle and what direction your fabric needs to be in, this is really easy to remember. Make your A, remember right sides together, and it doesn't matter if this one's on the top or this one's on the top. I usually have this one on the bottom and this one on the top, and then just go from corner to corner. There's that corner down there, and draw a line, and like the A line, you go across. Okay, so I'm going to stitch right on that line, and then after I sew that one, I'm going to take my next one. If you want them all to go in the same direction, I think you have to have this one over here the same way each time, face up, and then this one on the top of it face down. And let's see if that's right. cross over like the capital A. Let's see if we've got that angle right. So if I do that, this angle will be like that, and this angle. So do you see how the seams will go like this all the way down? And that is just if you keep your fabric in the same direction. So I'm going to do another one here. We can go either way, but I'm going to have this one face up, this one face down. Okay. My line will be right there. And just like this one, we're going to be going, I've got my line under here so it's hard to see, so I'm going to take that one off. So this one's going to be like this, and that one's going to be going the same direction, so they're all running parallel. So I'll just keep adding and sewing as I go. I usually just sit at my sewing machine and just have the one face up and add it to it and go like that. Okay, so as you can see, I just chain sewed them together, and we're going to see how this worked out. So first of all, I'm going to separate them. Get all those little threads out. Okay, and then we're going to lay it out. So far, so good. And as you can see, they're all going the same direction. If one of them's not, I'm not going to change it. So it doesn't bother me at all for one of them not to be going the right direction. But if yours is not and it bothers you, you can just take that one out. Yeah, all those are good. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to take, and since we kind of, as we were pulling them, we noticed that they all went straight like that. So they're all good. We can just take a pair of scissors and then cut those triangles off the back 1/4 inch away from that seam. And we'll do all of them just like that. Next step, we are going to press our seams, and I like to press them open to keep the bulk from being too thick on my binding. Okay, now that that is done, we are going to fold the binding in half lengthwise like this. And we have our binding here, and I am just going to put it here and wind it up for a minute just to get it out of my way. Keep it freshly pressed. Okay, so there is our binding and it is ready to put on. Now, if you are not sure how to put on binding, you can go to any of my videos. Let's see, it would be probably one of the shamrock quilt videos that I did in March, or any of my early dish mat videos where I'm showing you how to put the binding on a dish mat. Those would all be good videos to go see. I'm thinking of doing just a video explicitly teaching putting on a binding so that it can be something that I can easily send you to or link to for those new people who are watching that have not ever bound a quilt or need some fine tuning on their binding skills. So I'm thinking I will probably end up doing just a quick video on that. But this is all ready. I am planning on sewing it on and doing all sewing, and whenever I do that, I start with attaching it to the back. Now I'm going to tell you that I'm not going to forget this time. I am going to put a label on this, or a tag. And so I've had several that I've shared with you lately, and I'll put links in the description box. There'll be some pictures of some video thumbnails that will have some of these tags in them, and they will come as just a downloadable piece of paper, and then you'll have to buy the transfer paper, and I think I have some right here. This is what I use, but there's different kinds. This is a white and a dark. If I'm using a dark colored ribbon, I could use this too. Walmart did not have they didn't have all the white ones. They were all out, so I just got this one because I was needing some. So if you are interested in making your own tags, I have a video on how to do it on Canva, and then it also shows you how to take these that I give you free and put them on the transfer paper and then make a tag out of them with ribbon, like I've done on these right here. You'll just cut a piece of ribbon and iron it on. And so I've got a lot of these tags right here, so I just need to pick out one that I want to put. That one wouldn't be bad. It's just handmade. There's a fall one. I did have the quart size. There's another fall one. There's one that says handmade. The quart jars that I put on my dish mat, I probably got another one of those in here that I could use too. The one I used on my dish mat is the one that had the quart jars on it. And I probably have that one somewhere too. So I am going to figure out which tag I'm going to use, and what I will do once I've got it figured out. Let me just take one of these here. You fold it in half, and when you're putting your binding on, I put my binding on the back first, and what you're going to do is you are going to put it, find wherever you want to stick it on your towel, and then put your binding on top of it, just like this. And then when you sew, it catches your tag, and then when you wrap your binding around it, your tag is going to be right there. So I will probably trim this one down if I use it. Some of these are a little long and I can just trim them down, but I'll figure out which one I'm going to do. I'll get my binding put on, and then I will bring you back to show you what it looks like all finished. Well, what do you think? I absolutely love it. I think this is such a cute tea towel, and it goes so nicely with our dish mat. Coordinates so well. I love the colors. I love Kim Deal fabric. I think this towel looks really good on it with this fabric. The Scrappy border looks really nice. It ties in with all the different colors going on in our towel. The tag that I ended up going with is this one right here. It says made with love, and then there's some fall leaves. I thought those colors went really well with this, and so there we have it. Finally, September's tea towel of the month. So if you are new to this channel and you're not a subscriber, if you like what you see, please consider subscribing. It will help my channel out a lot, and it helps me know that this is something that you enjoy doing. If you are a subscriber, don't forget to like and share, and tell your friends, share it with quilting friends, sewing friends, cooking friends, whoever you think would enjoy this channel. I would love to have them as viewers. I hope you have a great week, and I hope to see you back here soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.